allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. I guess we will jump right to recognition of artists.
Yes, so we're gonna turn it over to Mrs. Barnes, who is going to say a little bit about the program and what the art awards actually mean. And then we have some certificates to recognize each of the artists that's being featured here today. Then we'll take a break so that you can explore all the artwork in the back there, and Dr. Watkins will take a picture of all the artists that came.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is our Scholastic Art Awards winners. So the process is that the artists from 7th grade and up get to look and maybe select some of their favorite pieces that they're proud of. And they upload it, they do a submission process to the Scholastic Art Awards. It goes to a judging process, and then they come back to us with gold, silver, and honorable mention winners. The gold and silver winners are going to be displayed at SUNY New Paltz at an art show. And then we also have the gold winners. They go on to like the next level. So this is our regional winners, and then it could go on to nationals. We have a lot of people here today. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really wanted to say thanks for all your hard work. Mrs. Kring as well wants to say thank you to everybody. And we had a really nice variety this year. We have so many different mediums. We have so many people that tried new things this year. We have printmaking, painting, drawing, graphic design, charcoal, stained glass. And we also have a number of winners too that won doing a like a tablet drawing on the iPads. So I just want to give a shout out to MEF because they funded an iPad cart for me and Mrs. Crane. So a lot of great work went into all this, and you guys really have a passion for art, and I'm glad that you're able to see it here tonight. So we have some winners, and the ones that are here, just take a step up and you have a certificate for you as well. So we have Lauren Chu that had a gold key right in the middle, and they're also labeled when you go up there so you can see, you know, who made the work and what material it was. Samantha Florentino, Sayla Witt had a gold key, hole in the earth. Adriana Lockwood, and grade 12. There we go. That's Lauren Chu. We have a certificate for you.
Yeah.
Grade 12, Haley, grade 12, Adriana, grade 8, Tommy Martin, grade 8. Awesome. Those are our gold key winners. Samantha also had a silver key for Dragonfly. Alexander Hernandez, white charcoal. The white charcoal one was a silver key. Alexander Rosa Lara, grade 8. Evie Gonzalez had a grade 8 silver key for the eye. Dash Davis, grade 7, for the where the sidewalk ends, digital drawing. Honorable mention, we had Samantha Florentino for another digital piece. Maria Stella Angelito had Mike the Painter, which is also the framed work right there. We have an art show coming up too in Kent, Connecticut, and those are all going to be framed. So that one is on its way to Kent, I believe, or it was last year. So hers is in the frame right there, really nice. Izzy Vasquez had 2 of her sculptures, Frosty and Highland Cow, on the table. Evie also an honorable mention for her printmaking, written flowers. And Harvey Ryan couldn't make it tonight. He had a self-portrait digital art. Also, just wanted to mention when you guys go up there, feel free to take a little calendar. So this is just the art shows that we have for the rest of the year for 2026. We have our Kent show. We have a town library show that we call Art Blast every year. That one is for pre-K to 8. And then our spring shows also. So feel free to take one of these. And thank you once again, everyone, for coming.
Good.
If you'd like to take a few minutes to explore the artist Dr. Watkins, if you're okay with that, like to take pictures so that we can see you on our social media. That's up to you. So the board and everyone will actually take a break so we can explore some of the art that we have.
Next, we have consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
For a second?
I'll second.
Anything we want to discuss, Paul? We need more information. Very good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Next one is the BOCES spotlight, there for your perusal. Okay, so the president and vice president's report. First of all, we had at the last meeting, we had kind of like a miss that where, someone put some questions in the online. But we had actually, by the time we got to that section, we had already gone over, it. But I just want to make sure if anybody's listening, the questions were about, what is Millbrook doing to make sure that the money is spent wisely, that we're taking full advantage of our facilities, that, we're trying to become more, I don't want to say aggressive, but more active in, looking if we have an empty classroom, is there something we can do with it? Is there a program we can run? And the answer to basically all the questions are yes. I mean, we've done a number of things that we continue to focus on with, using classrooms, using them for BOCES, so that we're actually taking, advantage of every square foot. So, those things, they're in fact, most of them are in the minutes from last meeting. But the short answer is yes, we've been spending a lot of time focused on grants to offset our finances. So anyway, I wanted to make sure we hit that. Carol. Excuse me for a second. Yeah, there was, so the county, basically sent out a note saying this is mandatory for all superintendents to attend. And I just want to make it clear to whoever's listening, they come to the board for that kind of permission. They don't just walk in and say, this is a mandated meeting for the superintendent. So, I don't really care what you guys are doing, you can come to our meeting. That's not the way this works, so I just want to make it clear, get it on the record, and then, if we have to talk with somebody about proper etiquette, that's fine. I think that's, we are still working on the.
Harry, excuse me, it's not etiquette, it's procedure, and it's legal procedure. Superintendent works for the board.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Eric. We are going to continue, we haven't had a chance to get this together yet, but the board goals, we'll be meeting with the lawyers, I believe, in the next couple of weeks, and then follow that up with a review at one of our board meetings, and then a follow-on retreat to lock down all the rest of the pieces. So stay tuned for that. Chris, did you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. Students.
Good evening, everyone. Millbrook High School has been buzzing with activity as the school year moves forward. The girls and boys basketball teams have been putting a lot of hard work and dedication in. Both teams are showing steady improvement and are preparing for some exciting games coming up. The players are building strong teamwork and skills, and the school community is really supporting them, creating a great atmosphere around the sports programs. Academically, students just finished midterms, which was a big milestone for everyone. The exams tested their knowledge and helped students and teachers understand where they stand in their courses. Now, with midterms behind them, everyone is gearing up for the third quarter with renewed energy and focus. There's a sense of optimism as students and teachers set new goals and look forward to continuing their progress. Beyond sports and academics, there are various activities and events happening around the school that kept the spirit high. Millbrook High is fostering a balanced environment where students can excel both in classrooms and in extracurriculars. Overall, the school is thriving and everyone is excited about what the rest of the school year will bring. The combination of athletic programs and academic achievements is making this a memorable year for the Millbrook High School.
I have to tell you, from a board member and from the board standpoint, I've gone to a couple of our games, including JV, and it never ceases to amaze me, no matter what the score is, no matter the team that we're playing. I'll keep my opinions to myself, but the team that we're playing, how really good our students are in keeping themselves together, acting professionally, acting, just representing the school in a wonderful way. So, my thanks to you and to everyone else. Any questions?
Thank you.
Caroline?
So my report is there for your review. It's really long, so I'll just highlight a couple of things. And some additions that actually aren't included. So as you know, the STEAM fair is coming up both for secondary and elementary students. They are hard at work. We do have the Rotary Club partnering with the Millbrook Library to offer students after school support and some supplies. So we really appreciate that community support for our students and the STEAM fair. We also have this past week, students in 6th and 7th grade attended presentations on enrichment options for the 26-27 school year. And they also were able to participate in a World Language Day of Exploration. So basically they spent half the day in Spanish and half the day in French so that they could see which they would prefer to participate in for their academic study going forward. So that's something that was started, I believe, last year, and the response was really positive, and the students got to have some exposure before making that decision. So we've continued it this year, and it seems to be working for our students and for our teachers. So kudos to Mr. Cabello for working with the staff to be innovative. At the high school, the students participated in midterms and regions last week, right? So exciting. Such a fabulous experience, I'm sure. But it is over now. We have moved on to our second semester, so it's very exciting. It's hard to believe the second semester is here already, but it feels like this will be a sprint to the finish, as is every year. Students down at Alden, in the 5th grade worked with, CAPE on the Too Good for Drugs program, so they just wrapped that up. Congratulations to Ms. Barnes and all of her artists who were here this evening. And also I want to congratulate Mrs. Tomasulo, who will be, awarded for her dedication and public service to our community. So that will take place, I believe, at the Spirit Awards. And that is coming up on January 31st at the high school. So reserve your seats. Two things from the finance office, our capital project phase 1A plans have been submitted and received by NYSED. So we got the news that they were received on Friday, I believe. And then there will be an RFP for external audit services that will be issued in February. So that's our external auditor committee members will be brought together to discuss the bids when we get them back. And then some information that's not included, but I do want to just keep you updated. We actually just got the first glance at our NYSER re-enrollment rate for this upcoming year. So we're looking at a 10 to 12% increase for our insurance. So that's the district's insurance. And also we're still hearing from our health insurance that we're looking at potentially the current rate that we're hoping, cross fingers hoping, that it will decrease. We're looking right now at a 16.43% increase. The first aid runs from the legislature have come back. The legislative run is looking at a 1% increase in foundation aid, which is about $29,000. So if you do the math, there's no way that those numbers balance. And so this is not unique to Millbrook at all. I was at a meeting today with NISCUS, which is the New York State Council of School Superintendents, and everyone was kind of looking at each other like, what are we doing here, right? Like, health insurance is skyrocketing, our district insurance nicer, right? The insurance reciprocal is one of the biggest insurers for New York State schools. The reality is that everyone is facing the same exact crisis of cost escalation and really just no money coming from our largest, source, which is our aid other than the voters. And so in addition to that, we did have one little speck of hope. We did get a potential increase for our pre-K age should these numbers flesh out. Where it's been 5,400 per student for the last couple of years. There is a potential for an increase to $10,000 per student, so net $4,600 increase per student. And again, those are per pupil allocations, so it will depend on how many students we get in. The reality of that is pre-K is going to cost what it costs next year, and depending on the number of students, that's how much aid we'll have. An increase in aid could be helpful, but it's not going to help in any area other than pre-K for next year. So some of the things that we've been doing as a council of school superintendents, I was today at a meeting with NISCUS that was for the Mid-Hudson Catskill Council of School Superintendents, and that was all about legislative advocacy and the areas in which we are working to secure more funding or to advocate for more funding, I guess I should say. And in addition to that, it's also really about advocating for other issues that education is facing as a whole, which is a lack of certified individuals, especially in high need areas for certification. So we've been advocating for that. We've been advocating for civil service reform. That is something that is definitely needed. We in Dutchess County, we've seen some changes. There's a potential for more changes to come, but there needs to be even more changes because we have some just fundamental issues for how we can staff certain positions right now. And we, of course, want to do everything by the book, but it's very hard when you have a space to fill and you're waiting for lists and all of those things. So we are doing our very best. We also are looking to see at things, how we can make headway with things like public school money that is being funneled to private schools. And the way in which that works is that charter schools are being created. And if a student from your catchment area goes to a charter school, that money follows them and does not come back. And so that's a concern, a very big concern. In no way is anyone trying to limit opportunities for students attending private schools, but there are certain opportunities that are being limited for public school students because of some of that. And unfortunately, one of the things that becomes of concern is that when public school money is funding private school successes, obviously that becomes problematic for, you know, certain folks within the public school community, right? And so our efforts are to protect public education always. This Friday, I'll be meeting with Senator Shelley Mayer, who is the Senate Education Chair for legislative advocacy. That is as an executive board member for the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents. And we'll be meeting on a bunch of different issues in terms of advocacy for funding. And on Thursday, I will be with the Lower Hudson Education Coalition on their legislative advocacy talk. That is an evening talk. All of you are welcome to attend. It is a Zoom call. We did send the invitation out a couple weeks ago, but I can send it out again. You do need to register in order to get on, but I highly recommend it because it's the opportunity for us to interface with the legislature and really express to them our concerns for all the things that I just mentioned, and then some, because this is going to be an extremely tough budget year, and the reality is that we're hoping that the landscape will get better than 1% foundation aid, but that's not necessarily the pattern that we've seen. We've seen over the last, I don't know how many years, that we haven't even gotten the money that we were promised. And so last year we started out in one scenario and lost even more money. So if this is where it starts, we really are going to have to be very creative in how we can balance this budget. That is what I have for you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No questions. I just wanted to thank everyone involved, with the school opening today.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really remarkable work.
Yes,
That
at this point,
everyone did.
our guys are working so hard. There's just nowhere to put all the snow,
Yeah.
like that's the biggest challenge that we're facing. Our snowbanks are as high as we can make them and
Yeah.
we're losing parking spots everywhere, but doing the best we can to make sure that our kiddos have an opportunity to come to school.
Thank you.
There was something that came out, email, maybe, that, either the town or the village is getting one of those melting machines. You know, you bring the snow there and dump it in and then melt it. And the email says something like, well, and if you have anything, here's my phone number, give me a call. I don't know if that's something that we could
I
take
didn't,
advantage
I didn't
of.
receive that. I was told about it this evening. That it was a private contractor working. I don't know if they were under the village contract. We could certainly, I'll reach out to the village highway and see what his story is. I know they were looking at pull piles off Franklin this evening overnight, so we can reach out to them in the morning.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that's around, especially in the, just off of the village you can't even see around the corner, you know, you have to kind of ease your way out into the traffic. But if there's a chance that we can, take advantage of it to get rid of some of it. And just to add on to that, how did everything else go? I mean, I haven't noticed any, ceilings on the floor or anything, but
Not so far, it's not melting yet.
Right, that's to go, that's not gonna happen for a while.
It's only sort of funny. While it's this cold, we won't have any issues. For the next 10 days, we're not projecting to have any extended periods over 32 degrees where we would have sustained melting. But eventually, it's all gonna melt and it's gonna have to go somewhere. That's when we will be.
That's when we're gonna have problems.
well, it's not really that heavy yet either. I mean, the snow itself is pretty light, so I just was curious if we had any new issues.
No intrusion with the storm, but again, it's so cold that none of it's liquid at this.
Anything else, anybody?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Caroline, thank you. Next up, we have our dean of students.
Well, thank you again. Last time I was here was at the conclusion of Q1 to discuss some of our attendance and look at that. But tonight I'm bringing to you some additional information as to what we do here and looking at some of our restorative practices that we utilize across the secondary level specifically. So as I head to our first slide here for restorative practices, I do want to highlight that many of these things are already in use here at the middle school and high school. So specifically, some of the things that I think of that are utilized really well are some of the mediations. And what this looks like is between student to student and student to teacher. So these are utilized relatively frequently at the secondary level. It's a great opportunity to work with our students, to welcome them back into either school, into the classroom, or just the hallways around their peers. And then additionally, I was very fortunate, thank you to the board and to the administrators here for allowing myself alongside Mr. Cabello to attend a restorative practice conference up in Boston. While we were there, we took a lot of positive things away. We learned a lot. And in the past couple of weeks, we've been turnkeying some of this information to our administrative team, and which I will now get into and start to relay some of this information here for you as well. And what we sort of took away from this. So first and foremost is a reflection room. So what this would look like is a specific place designated in each building So right now, in speaking with the administrators, working with Mr. Cavillo, we're looking at a district-wide restorative practice that we can hopefully then begin to implement into our code of conduct at the end of the school year. So first is this reflection room. This is a space that is designated at the beginning of the school year. It's a place where students can go, they can practice some of the sky school breathing that we've learned over the past year. They can utilize some ruler techniques. And these are things that they can do if they got into it in recess out on the playground and they need to step away for a moment and just kind of decompress before going back. If they're going in to speak with a principal and they want to just kind of catch their breath, they're a little overwhelmed or stressed out before going in and speaking. If they were to happen to get sent out of the classroom, they go into what we would call reflection room, and there are some tools and strategies that they can utilize before taking their next steps. Another thing that Mr. Cavillo and I learned at this conference up in Boston is the idea of character connections and accountability projects. And so what this would look like is for our younger students is to complete a Freyer model style of accountability project. This allows them to create the 4 boxes. They can go through these different situations, the why, the contract, and the contingencies. And the goal of this is to hopefully help our students understand like what happened, how it made somebody feel in a particular situation, and what we could take away from it. And for our older students is utilizing a Google slide. And I'll come back to this as I speak to Structure Day in a brief moment. But this is also going to be utilized in potentially instead of an after-school detention, we would call it our character connections or an accountability project. And so sometimes our students would stay after school in completing one of these. Tag out, timeout, take out. So this is, again, another protocol that we sort of utilize already. We just have not necessarily labeled it. So tag out, what this would look like briefly is a teacher might have in a certain instance with an issue with a student, and they can call down to the main office or to another teacher. They watch their classroom while they step out in the hallway and speak with that student momentarily. It's just a way to have that teacher and that student handle the situation on their own while somebody's watching their classroom. Again, it's nothing too crazy. I'm sure a lot of teachers do it already. In regards to a timeout, this is a situation in which a teacher would send a student to the reflection room in whatever that designated space is that the building has provided. There can kind of take a breath, they can get themselves together before re-entering the classroom. It's the equivalent sometimes too, as a teacher might say to a student, just go take a quick walk. Why don't you go get some water? Perhaps you need to use the bathroom. So that is that situation. And then takeout protocol. This is our final one. And this is if a teacher happens to send a student to the main office for the remainder of the period. They need them out of their classroom, they send them there. One of the things that I think is really successful about the takeout protocol though, is we have it written into our code of conduct that a teacher and student must have a mediation session before the next class period. And so what this allows for is if a teacher happens to send a student to the main office because they cannot deal with them in class anymore. Okay, well, before they just walk into your classroom the next day, we need to all sit down together and really kind of hash this out to make sure we're all on the same page and that we can move on to the next thing. And one of the things that I'm really excited to share with you is this idea of a structured day. Now, one thing I really want to preface is that structured day does not take place or completely remove an ISS or an OSS. Those do still maintain and they would be in place, especially when it compromises student safety. So I do want to preface that. However, structured day, I think, would be really successful for a lot of our students here at Millbrook. So what this would look like is a student who happens to get in trouble for whatever the specific instance is. And instead of in-school suspension, sitting in a room in the main office and completing work there and doing some mediation sessions, we don't remove their learning. So they still go through every single period of their regular day. They check in to the main office at the start of the school day. They speak with the principal. They kind of get the lay of the land for what their structured day is going to look like. Then they report to the cafeteria after all the other students have already left and moved to first period. They eat really quickly while they're there, and now they show up to their classroom a few minutes late. While they're there, they have a regular seating arrangement. They sit in the class, they still partake in the class just like a regular school day, and then they leave class let's say 2-3 minutes early, whatever the specific building decides. But ultimately, they leave class so they're not in the hallways having fun with all their friends. Now they get to class a little bit early. Teachers are aware of what structured day would be, so they come into class, they stand in the back of the classroom, whatever it might be, however that specific teacher wants to designate it, but they're there. Now when the bell rings, they're not out in the hallway, they're the first person in class, right to their seat, they're ready to learn, they do their thing. Well, you may ask, well, what about gym class? That's like the class everybody likes to have fun in. We're still not gonna remove that, but one avenue we could work with is perhaps the student is now the scorekeeper, or they are one of the coaches for the day, or they're doing something else other than what they normally want to be doing. At lunch, they can eat lunch and then they can report up to the main office for a character connections or accountability project. And then at the end of school, depending on what the teacher or principal decides, ultimately, if they wanted to keep them even further after as a, sort of detention, we could also utilize accountability projects there in our character connections. But overall, the goal of this is to not remove the learning from the child and still allow them to go through their everyday school, but remove them from all the fun pieces of school where they might, get into some more issues in the hallways or out at lunch in the cafeteria and stuff like that. So structured day, I think, can have a lot of success, and we can also utilize it in some of our tiered interventions before we get into ISS and OSS. We've tried a structured day with you. And so this is something that I think as we continue to work with the other administrators and really hash out all the nuances of it, it could be a real success for our students. And again, as I mentioned, our restorative practices, this is something that's already been done here. We're just looking to continue to utilize them because as I move on to my last and final slide for you here, something I'm really proud of, I'm sure the other teachers and staff along the secondary level are proud of as well, is we've had a significant decrease in our referrals from last year to this year. So just as I showed you last year, we had a significant this year we've had a significant decrease in our absences. Our referrals are also going down as well. Everybody that's working and holding our students accountable, but doing the right things and going about it the right way. And so that just sort of wraps up my idea that if our restorative practices are already working, well, let's continue to utilize this and hopefully bring it to the forefront of our schools to make sure that we can still provide students the best education, but also hold them accountable when necessary. And lastly, obviously it matters for a multitude of reasons, but it still continues to align with our mission and vision of the district. And so that it's something I'm really proud of and hopefully can get everybody on board to provide the best education we can to all the students here in Millbrook. And if anybody has any questions regarding any of these specifics, I am glad to answer them. I know I just threw a lot at you.
So is this is a program that somebody else sort of I don't want to say invented, but package.
It's exactly it, yeah.
And do they make it a formal part of a policy so that because there's a lot of, if this happens, then you do this, somewhere we need to have like those limits and those actions documented, so it's done the same way all,
Right, so it really ultimately could be right in line with our in-school suspension and our out-of-school suspensions, and it could just be a tiered instance for that sake. Where at first we utilized a structured day, after a structured day, if another instance comes up, then we went to a ISS and ultimately OSS.
And so I think the piece of this is that this is intended to be proactive, right? So this is intended to prevent a child from being removed from their learning. And so modifying their day and providing more structure, and along with the structure, the support of the administrator, the dean, whomever, who's reteaching those behaviors and helping the student really understand how their behavior impacts the school environment. That's kind of the key. So when you look at due process in terms of the way in which a student's behavior is dealt with as per the code of conduct, it's really about they're entitled to more due process the more they are becoming removed from the educational environment. And so this is really, it's already in line with what's in our code of conduct, because we are allowed to do this. We are not removing them from the education environment. We are actually supporting them participating in the educational environment by providing these other supports in these ways. And so, you know, we have to let them eat. We do not have to let them eat with their friends, right? So we can remove them from that place that could potentially, like Mr. Gilroy said, that they could find themselves more problems for a period of time to help teach into how to be appropriately interact with our peers, how to be appropriately interact with our teachers. And so right now, this is sort of in like a pilot phase that we're working with the middle school and high school. And then I think we'll have some data at the end of the year to really look at, to be able to say that this is something we want to really codify within the 26-27 code of conduct.
How do you make it so it's not disruptive to the class when we have to leave early?
Yeah, so this is something where I think when it becomes part of our school's culture and that everybody understands what structured day looks like and how we go about it, then it's just what we do here at Millbrook. And so when a student enters the classroom, I wouldn't use the word necessarily being shamed, but if they happen to enter the classroom earlier, everybody in the school knows like, oh, that child is on structured day, we better not speak to them. And that, again, ultimately, that's going to come down to the culture of our building, and I'm very right now happy to say that I think the culture would be pretty parallel and accepting of a structured day.
That was my next question as far as the mentality of the student, because I mean, they are kind of being shamed whether they deserve it or not. I mean, on both sides, you know, make sure it's not disruptive and make sure that, you know, we're making sure that the kid's not being
So at the
bullied on the back
conference,
end of it.
one of the things that our presenter had phrased, which I really resonated with me, was providing the parent and the child the option and say, you know, here's what happened, and you have the option of an in-school suspension or a structured day where you can be removed of the learning or still go to, you know, your classes and be involved and know what's going on and all those kinds of things. And he said in his experiences, almost every single parent and child is going to pick the structured day before they pick an in-school suspension. And so I share that with you because that to me was just another thought that happened to resonate. Like, yeah, when you provide the option to some of these parents and students, I feel like that's hopefully the avenue they would take.
And I think it's about the supported like reintegration, right? So the student understanding why they are on a structured day, right? The expectation is that you are entering this classroom and you are sitting down because we're giving you the opportunity to try this again and to do better this time, right? And so we're not removing you from your peers. We're not removing you from your, you know, school experience. But the reality is that also comes with responsibility, right? So these are things that, you know, I think in all my years as an assistant principal and principal, I can tell you that the majority of student issues really all came down to 3 words, right? And they would say them to me and I'd be like, okay, stop. And it'd be, I didn't think, right? Whether it was, I didn't think I'd get caught, I didn't think I'd get in trouble, I didn't think it was a big deal, whatever it is, right? And so having that time to them, for them to like actually explore this metacognitively, right? First this happened, then this happened, it all could have been avoided if that didn't happen, right? It really allows them to be reflective and then proactively re-enter the classroom with a changed perspective. And that's really the key, is giving them the opportunity to reflect, to make new meaning, and to reintegrate back into the learning environment without the consequences. Because though sometimes I think for everyone involved, right, whether it's the child who had misbehavior or, you know, the folks around them who need to feel safe because that person is removed from the learning environment for a period, there's a lot of statistics that show that suspensions don't actually help students to act, you know, more pro-socially. And so this is really a way in which we hopefully can achieve that in a controlled manner.
Well, I do want to applaud you and, you know, for others just wondering, and all of this stems from a body of research, applied behavior analysis, cognitive behavior therapy that's been around since the 1950s. And so all of this is supported by empirical evidence. So I do applaud you. And yes, as Caroline said, you know, you can send a child to timeout, you can suspend, but if they're not learning, if A, they can't participate in their school day, and B, they can't learn what they need to do differently in the future, it's really just plain punishment. Now, sometimes, um, as you mentioned, an ISS or OSS is needed. So my question is, are you also thinking of it the other way too? So following an ISS or OSS, could you then tack on a restoration so that the student is safely re-entering the school community?
I'll be honest with you, I have not even thought of that, and it's a wonderful idea, and they didn't mention that, I think that's awesome. And no, I have not brought that to the table yet, but I think it's absolutely something that I would love to discuss, because that sounds.
But just to think about, because if it's really a student has been suspended for a safety issue, you want to make sure that, number one, they're safe to return, that they've demonstrated some type of behavior that shows they're safe to return, and that they can somehow show that they understand.
And I think,
That is-
so we do have re-entry meetings.
Yeah,
When students are suspended from school.
Mhm.
There are re-entry meetings on their way, and I think really the piece to work on would be the structure.
Oh, sure.
Meetings, right? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And maybe more of the structure of day, soft landing concept for them to return, but
Mhm.
you know, this is, like I said, it's a pilot, and really our goal is to avoid the need for the ISS and OSS by
Yes.
helping the students to be able to exhibit, you know, more positive behavior.
I did have a question on the graph though.
Yeah.
Well, first, I'm noticing that, so it's, yes, definitely a decrease, from last year to this year for both middle school and high school. But I don't want to use the word shock, so it did jump out at me, the difference between the incidents, referrals
From middle school
between
to-
middle school and high.
I'm glad you brought this to my attention.
Yes, so your thoughts on that?
Yes, so in prepping for my report and looking at this, I too thought the same thing. I was like astounded at this number. And thinking like, wow, we've decreased and reduced the amount of referrals by 40%, yet we still have a preposterous number up here. It was really mind-boggling. And ultimately, if I don't want to be necessarily quoted because I don't remember exactly, but a large portion of those numbers of referrals are cell phones at the high school.
Yeah.
And the second thing that would also be a leading cause in that is the tardiness to school.
Okay.
Now, a big portion of that tardiness specifically is gonna come from our seniors who happen to have senior privilege. And as I went back and looked at previous year's reports, that was also like two of the highest numbers that
Okay.
were up there. So while I'm not thrilled with what the number is, I'm happy that it's a decrease. But I think that those were the two main
Okay.
culprits of our amount of referrals. And one other thought too, with that being said, is there is an additional grade at the high school too. And sometimes I even forget that working in both levels, that, you know, there's an extra 100 students at the high school. So with that, it's just the amount of referrals are going to be increased too.
Sure, but we're talking like 4 to 5 times more one
They
year.
also have more autonomy.
I'm sorry.
They also have more autonomy.
Oh, of course.
Right,
That's
and
reasons.
so-
I am glad to hear that maybe the majority, I don't want to quote you, is more policy process, referrals, cell phone, being tardy versus, you know, inappropriate social interactions.
No, that we can guarantee. We have very few
1000% possible.
incidences that involve that type of thing. The majority of our incidences overall are going to be our targeting.
Yeah.
Our cell phones, I mean, anyway.
And for reference too, like a cell phone violation, especially with the new policy, just one cell phone is a referral. And so at
Right.
this point in the school year, you know, we've seen a decrease in the amount of cell phone violations as well too, but just again, considering that like the cell phones at the high school level, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I'm sure it makes up roughly, you know, 33% probably of whatever that number is.
Thanks.
Not adjusted.
My question kind of follows up on Chris's, is if perhaps in maintaining this data and providing it in the future, we can break that down, because I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening at the high school, like 240. But and also maybe adding if it's repeat offenders, like if it's the same 10 kids who are making up the 145 incidents. So I don't know if it's possible to break it down into that. So it's not scary looking at it like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Because 140 seems like a lot, but if it's things like, well, it is still serious, but if it's something that, I think Chris was alluding to, like, not a social interaction, but.
Yeah, so you also,
policy.
you get the suspension incident report monthly, so you can see like the big incidences, they're there, they're listed. So that's gonna be in school or out of school, you'll see any
Right.
incidences like that. So these are, you know, what Jack is saying, like the low level incidences that happen, so they're being addressed, right? They're being reported and they're being addressed. But yeah, we can break it down by incident. I don't know that we can break it down by repeat offenders because that might get close to identifying who the students are, but we can look at the reports that we can pull and see if there's something that would kind of help to see.
And
That's on your radar anyway, right? Like if there's
Yeah.
one to whomever, like you guys are already on top.
Yes, that's, we,
not that it makes it any better, but the 238 number and comparatively to 145 this year is also leading us in a direction downwards from the amount of referrals. So not that 238 is by any means good, but I think that, I know Mr. Syke was here a couple weeks ago and speaking to you and saying like, you know, knock on wood, we've had a lower number of referrals this year. And I think that that is true. And the data here, I think also shows that, you know, hopefully in utilizing more of these restorative practices and all this stuff, we're going to continue to decrease this number.
Thank you.
From a student standpoint, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what's your thoughts? I mean, have you seen a change?
I mean, I think I have seen a change and, I mean, a little bit, like, I just don't, there's not as much, because there's no, you know, no cell phones, obviously. You don't see as many kids getting in trouble for that or anything like that. So I think it's great. And I think the structural day too, I like that idea a lot. That's really cool.
Thank you.
and if you consider the fact that we usually have about 20 school days a month and we're in our 5th month of school. So 145 incidences isn't really that crazy. I mean, you have the highest concentration of teenagers, adolescents, right? No one really ever accused adolescents of making great decisions all the time. So that concentration in a high school building, I mean, it's not really that crazy if you're considering
What about
one, right,
just over
one cell
over a day.
phone, like,
Right.
It's what it roughly comes out to.
yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Let's see where we go. Financials and warrants. Do I have a motion?
So
A second?
Second.
Anything anyone wants to clarify, question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Now, next is on the Mark School investment plan. So if you want to take that.
Actually, we discussed it at the last meeting, Ellie. Is there anything else you wanted to share about that? This is for this. You have to make.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have a motion?
So
You have a second?
I'll second.
This is for the safety and security upgrade, so it's all here, and it's all spelled out in how we would be using the Smart Schools Bond Act money, which is cost neutral to taxpayers, so it's all laid out here.
Okay, so this is just, this is last week.
Yeah, we discussed it at the last meeting, but this is the actual plan.
Did we take the motion though? No. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any against? Next is the donation from the MEF. I do have a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second.
Oh, second.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank
Very nice. Thank you, MEF. All in favor?
I,
Any against? Now we're back to public comment question period. Any? All right, our enrollment report. Just for your information, I guess. Any questions on that? Future agenda items, you guys know. All right, next we have a proposal for executive session. Before we do that, just want to remind everybody that just because we go into an executive session doesn't mean the meeting is over. It means that we have some things to discuss. We can't do in public, but if we have to take action on them, we have to take that in public. So we'll be back after the executive session. With that, do I have a motion to go to exec?
So move.
Go to second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Any again? About Second,
Second.
again. All right.
Basically,
Yeah.